justice and peace and equality. Now the world they will see.
Yeah, we in the game. All right, Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. We're back. Mr. Mike Burns, Community and College Partner Program, doing the thing, grassroots, working in the community, underprivileged communities, restored by future leaders, future generation leaders of today.
Absolutely.
How did you connect the dots to say, hey, because coming from a local community, South Atlanta, rural metro Atlanta, you know, you're working to mobilize. Henry County was a tough county to turn blue, first and foremost. I have friends who still refuse.
Yes, it was.
Yes, you know, so I commend you
was.
for being the leader, a trailblazer for that. How did you say, you know, go from a local level, seeing how it worked, looking at the results where we are now with what happened over the course of the 10, 12 years that it did happen? What do you see? How did you connect the dots for that happening on a national level, but mobilizing where you took the politics out of it? You took the what I would say community development for real people, almost.
So when you work with underserved communities, they can spot a phony instantaneously. And if you don't approach them with sincerity and honesty, you'll never get anything done. Now, that's who I am as a person, but you had to be willing to display that to people.
Yes.
You had to be willing to be open and honest, not knowing what the outcome was going to be. And that's not easy for people to do if you're not familiar with doing that, particularly with people that you don't know.
Right on.
But as I began to do that, and as I began to, you know, meet different people, because certain people have come into my life because they were attracted to the idea of what I was doing, but they came from different backgrounds and cultures. And because I approached them with openness and honesty, we were able to engage in a dialogue and a conversation and a sharing of knowledge that made me understand that this is much broader than just my community. This is much broader than just my city or my county or my state. This is much broader, quite frankly, than even my country. You know, this is something that appeals across the board. But you only discovered that when you met people from different places and different cultures and different areas, and they said to you, wow, that's really cool, X. So I had a chance, I was invited to go to speak to some young South Asian leaders as part of a UN effort at Kennesaw State. And I told them about the program, and, you know, we talked, and I got a bunch of emails afterwards that they said, we would love for you to come to Vietnam and do this, because this is a program that would really help here. Now, they're literally from the other side of the world.
Vietnam.
They're from the other side of the world, but it made sense to them. You know, I was at a conference at Rutgers, and I was sitting beside the gentleman from Canada, and I did my presentation, and we were talking, and we were saying, you know, and he said, at one point, they said, well, do you want to go? He said, no, he said, I'm talking to my new friend here, Mike Burns. And I'm like, oh, we're friends now? He said, absolutely. So he's a tribal chief from Northwest Canada. As different culturally as it's possible to be.
Yes.
But we have so many things in common. And I started to realize that it is that commonality that is much more important than the difference.
Absolutely.
And when you begin to see what we all have in common, then the geographic boundaries and the racial boundaries and the political party boundaries, all those begin to fade away.
Okay.
And you begin to understand that this is something that brings people together regardless of walk of life, geography, religion or whatever. I mean, like I said, I got, white kids from Columbia, Mississippi. I get people from Florida in Alaska.
Okay.
I got people from Purdue University in the Midwest helping people in Louisiana. I mean,
right.
It's, the professor from California did work in a presentation in the Bahamas.
Right.
Doesn't matter. I mean, because we all have so much more in common. So it's an epiphany that you come to when you have the opportunity to understand that being open and honest is not a negative, it's a plus.
Okay.
Because it allows you to find and share the commonality in people regardless of where they're from and who they are.
Right.
I consider myself blessed for that.
Based on resources and need, not race.
Right.
Religion.
I mean, it's like the issues I spoke about earlier. I mean, those 8 things I mentioned, we all agree with that. I mean,
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you're in Alaska or, Timbuktu. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're in Vietnam or Canada. Those are common issues for everybody. So the blessing has been to understand the commonality amongst people, and it has helped eliminate those other barriers that traditionally separate people.
Now, we're in a climate right now where Project 2025, the era of Trump, the era of where people seem to be the most boisterous, the most walk with their chest out, black this, white this. How are you diversifying through that in this climate? Because in this climate, it's hard to kind of like take race and take all those other elements out because the media pushes it so hard.
There is a beauty in everybody getting equally screwed. So I mean, Hispanic people in Florida, they're feeling it.
Okay.
White soybean farmers in the Midwest, they're feeling it.
Okay.
African Americans in the Southeast or wherever they're at, they're feeling it.
They're feeling it.
Everybody is getting the short end of a stick somewhere, unless you are in that economic strata that tends to benefit from the decisions that are being made the most.
Okay.
So at a time when everybody is being made to feel the pain, at a time when we can give $40 billion to a country in South America, but we couldn't spend $8 billion feeding 42 million Americans. I mean, when everybody is getting treated poorly, there is no better time for us all to come together and to understand that we are the power.
Correct.
We have the ability to create change. Change has always come in this country.
Correct.
From the outside in. It's never from the inside out.
Okay.
So we should be coming together, and I try to share those things we have in common.
Right.
I share those wherever I go, and I get people to understand at the end of the day, we are too much alike to be arguing amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
We should all be coming together as a group, particularly now that everybody is feeling the pain.
Yeah.
Why are we not coming together and saying, if we're all feeling the pain, that's a common pain that we all should be working together to help eliminate.
Well, how do you think capitalism plays in that? Because you can have, we just saw it. We just saw it. Sheriff Reginald Scandrett, Shaquille O'Neal, food giveaway, Grace Baptist Church, line wrapped around the corner for almost 2 miles. White, black, Hispanic, Puerto Rican. But at the end of the day, it's almost like one group of people can be like, they're getting a box of food, and another group, and they feel grateful for it, And then the other group is like, we're getting a box of food because we deserve this, and we shun upon you, and you are poorer than us, and it's I mean, it's not like we're in the battle together.
Well, but it's just, if you're at the front of the EBT line and you're in the back of the EBT line, guess what? You're all in the same line. I mean, it doesn't matter in the end.
Correct.
So it's just, it's how you communicate with people.
Okay.
And I think that you have to be able to be willing to listen, and you have to be open and honest, but you have to communicate to people in a way that they understand.
Okay.
So, for example, the 2 coastal communities we're working on with projects.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to them about, developing a strategic relocation plan. And the stakeholders are like, well, Mike, the community really doesn't want to hear that. And I said, it's the reality.
Right.
I said, but it's how you phrase it that makes a difference.
Right.
So when I stood in front of the communities and talked to them about that, I said, let me explain it to you this way.
Right.
Wouldn't you rather have a plan and not need it than need a plan and not have it? And they said, well, that makes sense. Yeah, so let's put that plan together.
Correct.
So God forbid that day come that you may actually need it. It's already put together and you don't have to worry about that. And they were like, yeah. And so afterwards people said, well, that was a good way of putting it. I said, you have to be able to communicate in a way that people understand what you're saying from their perspective.
Correct.
I said, that's something, my father taught me when I was a kid. He said, if you can't communicate the same message to a prince that you would convey to a pauper, you don't know how to communicate.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when we talk about all those people feeling those different things,
Okay.
it's all in how you communicate with people, and I'm trying to get people to understand, and I convey this message to the students.
Okay.
Don't communicate based on what you know, communicate based on what they understand. And you can only do that if you listen. So, and they start to understand that. So, but when it comes to capitalism, most things have a logical conclusion.
Okay.
And I think for capitalism, we are close to the end game for capitalism. Because if you think about capitalism as a philosophy and as a ongoing enterprise, the end game of capitalism is a few people have all the resources, and all the rest of people don't have any resources.
Right.
We're almost at the end game of that. So there has to be some other system that comes along that works better than capitalism. I don't know what that is, but I do know this. I trust the young people who are going to live in a world that's impacted by this tremendous inequity in the distribution of resources. I trust their ability to sit down amongst themselves and figure out something that will be more long-lasting than the way things are being done now.
No,
so,
I definitely respect that. I want to. Do you think slavery still exists in 2025? And when I ask you that, because I know, I know. In going to these different countries and going to the different parameters and the things, and like you say, capitalism, we're near the end of that, right? Capitalism was one of the was one of the greatest assets of slavery. Tell us how that plays into it, because it seems as though we're still in a modern day slave plantation going on, so where like you say, the resources are over here, way over here, and the people who are at the bottom are the people who, the numbers, they're just being spoon fed the slop, so and not able to rise up like we probably should.
We have morphed, for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, we have morphed from slavery of the body to slavery of the mind.
Okay.
People, if you don't think you can ever move ahead,
Okay.
you are a slave to whatever resources that are handed out to you that you receive.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the way that this is why things like getting rid of the Department of Education and the way that we fund education, which I think is horrific, because when
Interesting.
because a rich county has good schools and a poor county has bad schools
Okay.
because of the tax base,
Okay.
but we should be educating kids equally.
Correct. I agree.
Because there's a kid out there that can solve climate change. The question is, did we equip that child with the resources they need to understand their potential and fulfill it in a way that it benefits society? In too many cases, the answer is no.
Right,
because
right,
we don't
right.
do it right. So that's why getting rid of things like the Department of Education is so insidious and so dangerous, because you're essentially taking away their ability to critically think. So when you take that away, you've removed their ability to think beyond what's in front of them, and you've essentially enslaved their mind into where, they only see that small, minute part. It's interesting that at a time when human beings have more access to information than they have ever had in the history of the earth,
Gotcha.
we are more fractured and divided than we have ever been. And that is because people tend to look at what they like
Okay.
instead of being willing to look at or listen to what they don't know or what they don't like.
Right.
That's the beauty of me being in the program I am, because
Okay.
I have to go to communities I don't know anything about,
Right.
and I've got to sit and listen to what's going on.
And your safety is on the line.
Absolutely, and I have to essentially be willing to put myself out there.
Correct.
But what I have received in return,
Uh-huh.
there is no dollar that will equal what I have gotten spiritually
Correct.
by doing the work that I've done. So, you have to be able to understand that when slavery is of the mind, that captures or confines the spirit, and people can never move forward. So, and a lot of that has to do with the distribution and the equity of resources. That's why that's so important. So,
Definitely.
it's the things like, they talk about, in 2025 getting rid of, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, they also talk about getting rid of, I forget what they call it, essentially the history of slavery, where they don't want all of American history taught, just a part of American history that appeals to a certain group of people. Well, you can't do that. I can remember when I was a superintendent of the Selma to Montgomery Trail in Alabama, and we had these way signs that showed graphically people getting beat, people getting killed, and people that worked for me said, "Oh my God, we can't put these up." I said, "Why? That's what happened. When you deny people to understand how horrific history was,
Right.
then you deny people the opportunity to move past that into a better place. You can't remove that from them. So, you have to show that. So, and we have failed to allow, particularly our young people, to be able to do that, and that's why, on the educational side of things, that's why it's so important, when these kids go to these communities, because they begin to understand they're not any worse or better than I am. I just got a better education. I live in a better house.
Correct.
So, I like to think that we're planting seeds, and when that kid becomes a CEO or CFO or run their own business, they'll understand that race and culture didn't matter as much as the quality of the person, and that they can act accordingly. Is that a long road to hoe? And will that happen overnight? It won't happen in my lifetime, but it'll never happen if we don't strive for it.
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
you know, like I said, Andrew, it took me 18 months to get to First College to agree to my program. I mean,
Wow.
I got so discouraged. I went to somebody and I said, this will never work. And they said, no, it will never work if you don't continue to try. I said, okay. And I just continued to hang in there. 18 months of making cold calls. They were all cold calls, asking people to do this.
Wow.
And in the end, it was a little school in Tifton, Georgia, that was the first school that agreed to do it.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so, you know, and now we've got school, you know, now we've got schools, like I said, Stanford's getting ready to do a project in the Bahamas to design solar-powered water pumps for small farmers that the agricultural people in the Bahamas said will increase their agricultural yield by 50% in a country that imports 90% of their food. That's a game changer.
That's a game changer, man.
So, you know, but they went to Andros and they actually stayed on campus at a school in the Bahamas with the students. So they ate where the students ate and they went to the farm and they walked away with such a positive feeling about that experience. I mean, we're doing more than just creating projects for people.
Right.
We're changing the minds of these kids, and at the same time, I remember what a young girl in Alaska told me when we were at different tables talking about the project. She's 13, 14. She came up to me. She said, "You give us hope."
Mm.
I told her, I said, I won't get any accolade greater than that. Because when you give communities hope, when they believe they can move forward, they will move forward. That's the same thing with people. When you give people hope and they believe they can move forward, they can move forward. No one thought this county would change. When we started in 2012, no one thought this county would be blue, ever.
Right.
And I remember after the first time we ran a full slate of candidates and we got our butts kicked across the board, you know, a very good friend of mine, Bruce Holmes, came up to me afterwards and said, "You have Republicans thinking about changing party because they never thought that the Democrats would actually run." He said, "You have no idea that you didn't lose, you just got started." And I said, okay, and we hung in there, and 8 years later, we ran the table. I mean, you know, people don't believe change is possible until you actually work for it. People don't think you can change the hearts and minds until you actually work for it. I mean, you gotta be able to commit to it, stick with it, and know that your intentions are pure and your heart is good and what you wanna do is a positive thing. And if you stick with it, then eventually you'll get there. You'll make the change that you wanna make even when you don't realize it. I mean, it's like the mayor in North Carolina told me. I had no clue. 11 years later, they were still working with that college. I had no clue, but it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't have put that initial collaboration together.
I want to thank you for taking the time out for coming on our show today, Mr. Burns. I know you're busy. I know you're a busy man. We had to reschedule a couple of times, but it's okay. I'm glad we got the chance to sit down with you and go over some things and just share the story of a journey of community and college partner programs going. How can we find out more about your program online? Where can we find more?
C2P2works.com. That's the website. I encourage people to take a look at that. We also, C2P2 Works has a site on LinkedIn, and we're also on Facebook too. So, and we will, matter of fact, I was looking at that. I've got videos from Alaska. I've got like 4 or 5 different videos that we're getting ready to post online and on the website so people can see. But C2P2works.com, we've got our information there. Talk about our projects, talk about our mission. I encourage people to go to the website and, hey, if you're a community in need of assistance, please feel free to give us a holler.
Man, shout out to Mike Burns and Community and College Partners Program. Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network. Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. Love to give a shout out to Culturistic Kitchen, featured on the fall 2025 fall edition cover of Game Changers magazine. Shout out to A New Well, featured on the 10-year anniversary cover of Game Changers magazine. District Attorney Darius Patello, Power Moves Initiative, serving the youth. Power Moves Make One program, serving over 6 schools in Henry County. I also would like to give another shout out to Mayor-elect Jaden Williams, City of Stockbridge, global game changer right here in our local community, doing this thing. This is what change starts with conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for tuning in.
Justice and peace and equality. Now the world they will see.